from the book of Matthew in in conjunction with me reading pausing my reading from the Psalms to read from the book of Matthew during Holy Week. But Matthew 17:25 through 27 says, "Yes, he does," Peter replied. Then he went into the house. But before he had a chance to speak, Jesus asked him, "What do you think, Peter? Do kings tax their own people or the people they have conquered?" "They tax the people they have conquered," Peter replied. "Well, then," Jesus said, "the citizens are free. However, we don't want to offend them, so go down to the lake and throw in a line. Open the mouth of the first fish you catch, and you will find a large silver coin. Take it and pay the tax for both of us." So today, I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for health and strength. I'm grateful for my wife and my children. I'm grateful for my family, my immediate and my extended. Grateful to see each and every one of you in here this morning. My sister Lavette, Gigi, Precious, Indira, my brother Demi. Um, just have an overwhelming sense of gratitude. You know, um, this particular verse, um, it makes me think. I in my men's group we have this guy named Luke. I always telling you all about Luke. I really look up to him in terms of like his biblical knowledge, and he's very wise with this sort of stuff. And remember, and I'm a history junk, so he was telling us, a lot of the history behind, the whole phrase what everyone knows what he said, render where God said, render to Caesar what Caesar's and render to God was God. And if you know the significance behind it, is because, back then they had these Roman coins, right? And on the Roman coin, it used to have a picture of Caesar on it, you know? And he said that the significance behind that whole scripture was that God was saying that, the face what's on the coin was Caesar, and so you render that to him, that's his. But he said, you are made in the image of God, so you are supposed to render yourself to God, you know, because you're God's currency, you're his, And when I heard that from him, that was like one of those wow moments in my life because, that reminded me, um, not only that, you don't worry about the coin because it ain't yours, you know, but when you live for God, He provides everything that you need, you know. Um, Imagine that in this particular verse that I shared, where, you know, like God could have waved his hand and like they wouldn't have never even remember that he had to pay taxes or whatever. But he sent Peter to the mouth of a fish to get the coin. And I mean, think about the significance of this. What was Peter? Peter was a fisherman, you know? He sent him to do what he know that he's good at. He sent him into his purpose, and his purpose provided for him. You see what y'all catch where I come in with this? And that's what one of the things that now, um, as I walk into multiple chapters in my journey and in my purpose, I realize that, God could provide, but God is going to abundantly provide too. But the first step is surrendering yourself to Him. You could imagine if Peter had turned to God and say, "Well, why you just don't, wish the same way you turn water into wine?" You know what I mean? Just wish a bucket full of coins, yeah. Like, why send me down to the mouth of a fish? But God was telling him that, you know what I mean? In order for me to provide, you have to take the steps and go towards your purpose. In order for me to provide, you have to work too. We have to meet each other halfway. And to me, this harvest season, and when we call it a harvest season, harvest means that you have to reap. That means that you have to work. You have to go out there and you have to do what God has sent you to do in your purpose in order to provide for your family. And He's going to make provisions for you to be able to provide. So for anyone out there who feels as though, they facing a struggle or they feel as though they may have run into a dead end, just remember that, God is walking you to your purpose so that He can provide. Keep heading in that direction, put in the work and God can provide. You know, um, it is so important for us as Christians to be reminded that, remember that, like Gigi always will say, not just who we are, but whose we are, and render it to Him, give it back to Him. This life ain't ours, this life is God's own, and He's put us here for a reason. And every one of us is connected in one way or the other. So, everyone, I pray that you have a blessed week. I pray that we continue to walk in our purpose. And I pray that we continue to support each other as we walk in this purpose in Jesus' mighty name. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to catch a little bit of the sunrise. It's a little chilly out here and head back inside. So I'm Carrie, and I pass the mic on to my sister to that.